Hi guys, I'm Pete, and this is Pete's Eats Cooking Videos. Today we're going to make an absolutely fabulous soup. This is a favorite in our family, and I'm positive it'll become a favorite of yours. This is creamy cauliflower soup, and it is a French recipe with a little bit of adjustment that I make. And we're going to begin. I'm going to show you how easy this is right now. Here's what you're going to need. You're going to need, first of all, obviously, the vegetables. So you're going to need the cauliflower, a little bit of celery, and onions. Then the liquids. The liquids are chicken broth. Now you can buy chicken broth in a container or in a can. I have my homemade chicken broth that I have here. I've defrosted a big tub of it. I'm going to show you how to make this chicken broth in a future video, so just keep your eyes peeled for that. If you don't have chicken broth, you can use the bouillon chicken cubes, or you can just use water. I really don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. We're also going to use a little bit of white wine and some whipping cream to give it a beautiful velvety texture, and milk, and some spices. We're going to have thyme leaves, bay leaf, salt and pepper, and some butter. Let's begin! What we need to do now is to dice the onion and the celery and chop up the cauliflower into florets. About 2 medium-sized onions, 1 celery stalk, and a nice beautiful head of cauliflower. Here's a little trick. Let's get rid of all of the sort of root leaves of the cauliflower. I've taken out the big stem, so I'm going to get rid of all these little root leaves. Rather than spending a lot of time breaking this up into florets, this soup I'm going to puree later, so it really doesn't matter that much. What I'm going to do is just get the knife and go at it and break it up into chunks so that we can just throw it into the soup. It just saves a lot of time. So I'm just going to just break this up into large chunks and we'll be ready to go. That's probably good enough. It took me 2 seconds. I'm ready to go. Okay, so now we've got the pot ready. I've got about a good 3 tablespoons or so of butter in the pot. I'm going to turn it on to sort of a medium heat. And then I'm going to add the diced celery and the diced onion. And we're going to let that cook for a bit on the stove. I definitely do not want it to brown, but I want it to soften. So we're going to get these softened up. We'll just soften up these veggies, but don't let them brown. We're just going to soften them up. Should take about 10 minutes or so. Okay, so the veggies are softened. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put about a teaspoon of salt in now. I like to put the salt in at this point, and also some black pepper. I'm going to put just a bit of black pepper, just eyeball it, okay? And I'll let that just sink in a bit. Okay, and then we're going to add the cauliflower. So here's the cauliflower. I'm going to dump it right in. Here we go. And I'll give that just a second to soften up. Now I'm going to add about 1 cup to 2 cups of white wine. So I'm going to eyeball it again. That's a good cup, maybe 1.5 cups. And I'm going to turn the heat up a bit to let it sweat out. So now I'm going to add the bay leaves and the thyme. So I'm using 3 bay leaves. I like bay leaves and quite a bit of thyme. So that's fresh thyme I'm putting in there. Also now the chicken stock. I've got a good, this is probably about 6 cups of chicken stock. It's maybe a little bit on the high side, but we'll boil it up. And the milk, about 2 cups of milk. And now I want this to boil and for all the vegetables to soften up. So I'm going to put the lid on and let her go for a while till she boils. I have to keep an eye on it so it doesn't overboil. I'll turn it down once it starts boiling. And away we go. So the soup's been simmering for about 20 minutes now, and I can see that the veggies, including the cauliflower, are quite soft. What I need to do now is fish out all of these thyme and bay leaves, okay? So I'm going to do that right now. I want to try and make sure I get all the thyme and bay leaves out of the soup. I knew I put 3 bay leaves in, so I want to make sure and get them all out in as much time as possible because I'm going to puree it now. Now what I want to do is puree the soup. I've got one of these Braun kind of like whizzers. You can do it in a blender, or you can use just the old-fashioned potato masher if you want, but I'm going to go for it with this Braun whizzer. I'm going to put a little bit of nutmeg in. I've got a solid piece, so I'm going to just grind a little bit of on this little plane. So just a touch of nutmeg, it gives it a lovely nutty kind of lemony almost taste. Not too much, just a bit. Now for the cream. This is a matter of preference. We like it quite creamy, so I'm going to put a good maybe 2.5 cups of cream in, and I'm going to adjust that as time goes on. I'm going to see how creamy it tastes. This is now going to be a lovely, lovely, lovely soup. So I've got the cream in there. It might need a bit more. We'll see. Now it's time for the critical phase to adjust the flavors. Salt, hot, sour, sweet. That's going to make your soup fabulous or bland. Those couple of flavors are all important. And at the end of your soup, you have to adjust the flavor. You must adjust the flavor. So, what do I use? I use regular salt. There's all kinds of salts. I use regular salt. I like using a Frank's Red Hot or a Tabasco to adjust the hotness. I always like a warmth to my soup, not necessarily a hotness, just a warmth. I like regular day-old vinegar. You can buy all kinds of vinegars and use whatever you want. I like regular vinegar, or in a pinch, I'll use lemon. And for sweetness, I don't use sweetness often, but when I do, I use regular sugar. Of course, you can use corn syrup, you can use brown sugar, sometimes cream gives it a bit of a sweetness. These are all really, really important, and I'll show you how I do it now. Okay, now I'm going to give it a taste. This is absolutely the critical phase. More important than anything else I've done today is to taste it and see what it needs. So, as I predicted, I think it needs salt, sour, and heat. So I'm going to put a little bit of salt in, a good tablespoon. I'm going to put a couple dashes of Frank's Red Hot. And I'm going to be careful, but I'm going to put a touch of vinegar. I want about a teaspoon of vinegar, maybe a touch more. And I want some richness, so I'm going to add a tab of butter, and then I'm going to give it a try. Okay, on second taste, I think it needs a little bit more heat and a little bit more vinegar, sort of sour, and this has both, so that's good. And it also needs a little bit of richness, so I'm going to add a bit more cream, and I think we'll be good to go. Please taste and adjust until you're 100% satisfied, and don't stop before you are. Here you go. Here's an amazing bowl of cauliflower soup. We dressed it up with a couple of croutons and some beautiful olive oil and some pepper. You could put bacon bits, some Parmesan cheese, whatever you like, but I guarantee you this will be the family favorite, best cauliflower soup you've ever had. Enjoy it!